Hello and welcome back to the Loyal Sons Show. That's at the Loyal Sons, wherever you get your social medias. Follow us there and follow us here for Pitt Sports content you will not want to miss. If you love Pitt's first ever undefeated out of conference season and hate that we have to go another 2 weeks without watching our Panthers play, this is the place for you. The Loyal Sun Show, a safe, sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix. Hello, everyone. I'm not really good at reading calendars. It is September. It is the 23rd of September. It is 5:26 p.m. on Monday. I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Squid and Dylan. And we feel pretty good today, don't we, boys?
Not a complaint in the world.
Pretty much everything we begged and pleaded for to this point of the season. I mean, did any of us feel like 4-0 was going to happen? We thought maybe there was an outside shot at it, but I mean, come on.
It got to the point where we haven't gone undefeated in the non-conference for so long. We just knew something would go wrong at some point. So you just kind of penciled yourself in for 3-1 best case scenario. And of all years to do it, it was this year.
I mean, I think it's well documented that we were, despite our byline, not necessarily a safe and sunshiny place for your Pitt Athletics fix coming into the season. I definitely thought 2-2 coming out of the out of conference was more likely than 4-0. Yeah. Like I was certain we were dropping at least one of Cincinnati and West Virginia. But holy shit, here we are. The first Pitt team since they joined a conference to go undefeated in their out of conference, which feels insane.
Yeah, it feels like almost made up, but that's the harsh reality of things. And it's also their first 4-0 start since the year 2000, almost a quarter of a century.
These are some real broken and cursed football program fun facts.
Yeah, even the team who won an ACC championship and had a guy finish third in Heisman voting couldn't pull this off. So surely that means this team's even better.
We're in uncharted territory, boys. All bets are off moving forward. And that's a little bit scary, but we're 4-0, so it's awesome. We're not going to worry about the scary possibilities.
We don't have to do that yet. This is the bye week. We get to take a deep breath, relax, and watch a couple other fan bases sweat things out for the next couple weeks. Let the boys get healthy. Let them work out the kinks. We're just going to plant ass to couch and enjoy, this time until we suit up against UNC a Saturday from now. While we're talking about things that make us happy, let's get into that game a little bit. Can't get into it too much because, that game very much lacked nuance. It was just kind of a massive steamrolling. But it was the good kind, the kind where everybody's happy and smiling and high-fiving and getting all the good brain chemicals. That was Saturday. What'd you guys think? What do we take away from it?
It was pretty much everything we could have asked for and maybe a little more. I think we all would have been happy with putting up 50, maybe even 60 points. But 73, I didn't predict that. Did not predict that in my score prediction. And something that a lot of Pitt teams in the past have struggled with is just pounding these FCS teams into submission, these lesser opponents, making us feel good about the team and looking at the two teams on the field and being like, oh, this is the Power 4 conference team, and this team is the guys who did not get recruited by these schools. And Pitt made it very clear very early, just scoring every time Eli Holstein and the starting offense were on the field. It was, I think, what we all hoped that game would look like. And like I said, a little bit more.
Yeah, 73-17. Not much of a ball game. Holstein obviously looked like he was playing against toddlers. 250, 90 yards, barely played 2.5 quarters. Got some good numbers out of everybody. One thing I felt really stood out, and it was a huge key before the game that we discussed at length. And, we talked about how stress-free this game is. It's one thing to be stress-free. It's one thing to also give everyone like the very specific thing that they wanted from the game. And that was for Pitt to find a running back to a Thunder to Desmond Reed's Lightning. And I think we very emphatically found that.
What I was most looking forward to was this game being over very early because I had a wedding that started at 5:00, and I did not want to be going to that, worrying about Pitt holding on to like a 7-point lead at halftime and being away from my phone. The last time that happened to me, I just looked it up. I couldn't remember which game it was a Nicholls State for basketball. I remember we were all back in the back of the church watching on our phones, and Pitt was losing. And we're like, well, it's time to go in there. And when it ended, we're like, oh, they certainly pulled it out, right? Wrong. They did not. So I was pleased to see the first like quarter and a half. And I don't need to see anything else. This is just utter domination.
So then did you miss the Dan Carter show?
No, after Dan Carter's second long touchdown run, which is a sentence that we just said.
Yeah, say it again.
After Dan Carter's second long touchdown run was about whenever I had to hoof it down to the hotel lobby and get on the shuttle. So I think that was 35-3 or 28-3, one or the other. And I guess funny coincidence, I was going to a 70s themed wedding, so I was all dressed up for that. And then by the time I was there and everything was through and I got a chance to look at my phone, Pitt was scoring in the 70s. What a coincidence.
It's ironic for a few other reasons. I mean, for starters, it was homecoming and the theme was September by Earth, Wind, and Fire, a 70s classic. But also, I think 1979 was the first year that Dan Carter suited up for the Panthers. So coming full circle in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that was Kenny Pickett's redshirt year, wasn't it? Because they're old.
Yeah, because college rules.
Great stat from our friend Jim Hammett, Panther Lair. First 53 games of Daniel Carter's career. That's right, 53 games. 299 yards. Daniel Carter on Saturday, 109 yards. I mean, guy's just been putting in the work. Has made a couple position changes. Has been a part of some pretty big plays. Threw a huge block on the Jordan Addison touchdown back in 2021 to clinch the Coastal against Virginia. And that was 3 years ago at this point, and Dan Carter was already pretty old then. This was a dude who was 4-star running back out of St. Thomas Aquinas. Pretty big deal when they landed him and has kind of just bounced around, but he's a program guy. And David, I think what you've been alluding to, and we're finally getting to it, is he should be solidified as running back number 2 moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great fan service for a guy who's been around. He could have very easily left and gone somewhere and played. But no, he stuck around and now he's going to get a chance. It's cool. Like you said, Dylan, he was the fullback lead blocker on that play. Coach Narduzzi said he was the personal protector on punt team for a few years. So a real unsung hero. And now he might just be like an actual hero.
A very sung hero.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, first of all, he slimmed down, and much note has been made of that on Twitter and the fan boards that he went from 240, 250 to 215, 220, and he looked like it running. I couldn't believe it. Busted open a couple long ones, made the most of like 10 touches, 3 touchdowns, like 100. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but close to like 130 total yards.
7 for 109 on the ground, 1 for 13 in the air, 3 touchdowns total. So productive day to say the least.
120 and 3 touchdowns on 8 touches. Pretty bad day at the office, and it couldn't have been more well timed. The Panthers did, I think, the smart thing. I think everyone agrees the smart thing, and kept Desmond Reed in bubble wrap on the sidelines. There's no reason to uh, burn what's in the tank on Youngstown State, and it gave us the opportunity to see that. You know, while Derek Davis had his heroics against West Virginia, uh, he's not a guy that's gonna get you more than 3 yards a carry, but Dan Carter absolutely will. So I think that this has assuaged a massive fear for Pitt fans, and that's what happens if Desmond Reed gets rolled up on in a game that matters.
Yeah, so we can check that off our wish list. And everything else was just business as usual. The linebackers looked sweet. Holstein was doing whatever he wanted. Yeah, I'm happy.
I think one of the other takeaways from this game is Eli Holstein, dual threat quarterback, showing off a little bit of wheels. I mean, I know we've seen the mobility in the last couple games, extending play, especially in the West Virginia game. I mean, he had a few huge scrambles in the last 4 minutes in the comeback there, but I don't know. He had 93 yards rushing on the ground. I'd love to see the stats, but I don't know the last time a Pitt quarterback had 93 yards on the ground.
I think Chad Wojtek. I saw a tweet that Chad Wojtek had a 100-yard game in like 2014. I don't even know if I have that timeline right.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
No, I mean, it's one thing to be a guy who can scramble and be elusive in the pocket. It's another thing to just be able to take off downfield and be very effective using your legs. And he was. Without sacks, he went over 100 yards, which he will be, I think, quick to point out because he hates that rule more than anybody hates anything. That sack yards come off your rushing total. But guy can use his legs. And he was very proficient. I didn't love watching him take hits in a game where it was absolutely unnecessary, but it's cool to know that that's in the tool belt.
Yeah, I got a little nervous. I mean, I think the first drive, probably his first carry, was he kept it on a read option and kind of took a nice little lick from a Youngstown State linebacker. And I think we all just kind of turned and looked at each other and were like, okay, let's just not do that anymore. And then he took a bit of a shot on his first rushing touchdown as well. But Eli's a big dude, 6'4", 230. I think he can take the hits. Obviously, we want to minimize them as much as possible. But seems like he's willing to do it. And we've seen it at the college level. I mean, some of these bigger quarterbacks who can take a hit and maybe give it back a little bit to the defense can be super, super useful. So yeah, that was another bright spot from Saturday for sure. I'd like to point out another bright spot that it's probably my favorite play of the game on Saturday was the longest play of the game, the deep ball to Sincerely, 82-yard touchdown. A little bit under 2 minutes left in the first half, and Pitt got the ball back there, and we were all like, all right, this is great. Let's get a little 2-minute drill going, see if we can get down the field and score. And didn't take quite 2 minutes at all. It took about 10 seconds. And the reason I love this play so much, I went back and watched it after the game, and just another one of those things where Pitt offenses in the past have not done this. A lot of Pitt offenses, it was 35-10 at the time, playing an FCS opponent. They would have been more than happy with, all right, let's see what we can get on first down here. But if we don't get it to 2nd and 2, maybe we just take this into the half, up 25 points, comfortable lead. But Cade Bell's not wired that way. On the play, he sends Gavin Bartholomew in motion to the right. You literally watch 4 Youngstown State defenders shuffle their feet towards the side of the field that Gavin Bartholomew is going to, and then that left Sincerely in one-on-one coverage on the left side of the field, hits the corner with a double move, and Eli hits him with a absolute dime. Couldn't have been more in stride for an 82-yard touchdown. And it's like, wow, this team really is all about playing fast, scoring faster, because I guarantee Cade Bell called that play and told Eli and told Sincerely, you guys are going to score a touchdown if you run this right. So go out and execute. And that's exactly what they did.
Gotta love them taking shots. Gotta love them getting yards after catch. I heard a critique or two in the first couple games that not a lot of yak yardage, a lot of guys catching and going to the ground. Even the big shots that they hit to Kenny Johnson, I don't know if the ball was just positioned in such a way that he had to go down for it, or if Kenny Johnson just has a case of the Chase Claypoles and cannot catch a ball and land on his feet, which I don't think is the case. I think it's the former. But it was just nice to see, a couple plays where guys were hitting stride and were able to make some moves after the catch. So that is another fear completely absolved.
I chuckled whenever Eli Holstein said in his post-game press conference that they hit their 70-point goal and Coach Bell would be happy with them for that. I was like, I'm happy if Pitt basketball scores 70 points. When was the last time we thought 70 was a possibility for Pitt football? It's a very short window for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Syracuse shootout that one weird day. So the fact that they went into it thinking, let's get 70 today, awesome.
And Coach Dews saying it was because he wanted to avenge his dad. That's just standard Dews shithousery.
Just fired from Youngstown State, 40 years ago?
Yeah, this is
the
third or fourth time that he's faced them. He's like, you know what? This time
we unload the clip.
Yeah.
Dude's just rocking the blue tie with the short sleeve collared shirt.
I'm just glad he didn't look like, oh wait, which Miller brother was it? Sean Miller? Was he the sweaty one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't end up like Sean Miller.
Sean and Archie Miller both sweat profusely. They're disgusting.
Yeah, I think that's genetic. All right, so a lot of great out of this game. Probably don't need to beat it to death. We won by almost 60 points. Is there anything that gave you guys pause watching that game at all? Or are we just generally in an elevated mood?
Not going to do that on a bye week when we're 4-0. Everything's fine. Everything looks good.
I wish Holstein got 300 passing yards as well. Would have been a cool streak to carry on for a while, but I'll allow it because he almost rushed for 100 and had like 340-ish total yards and 4 touchdowns, which
5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns, which is not bad.
Enough to win him a 4th straight ACC Rookie of the Week.
Yeah, and
it seems good.
The record is 6, held by Heisman winner Jameis Winston. I think Sam Howell also might have gotten 6, but I don't care about that as much. Okay. Well, then I won't mention anything about the defense being unable to get pressure with 4 against an FCS opponent because we're keeping the vibes high. And we're going to roll this into a new segment that we have, totally not to kill time during a bye week. Dylan, would you like to introduce us as it was your idea?
Yeah, this week I thought it was a perfect time for us to break this out. And, I got to thinking, watching the last week's volleyball game between Pitt and Penn State, where they did not drop a set, a thing they have not done this entire season. And I was watching Olivia Babcock just absolutely annihilate the Nittany Lions. And I was thinking to myself, where would you rank Olivia Babcock on the list of best athletes at Pitt right now? I mean, she's probably the best player on the number 1 ranked team in the country in her sport. But we've also got a guy named Eli Holstein playing basketball. Is
he playing now, Dylan?
Sorry, he's playing football. got ahead of myself thinking of some
He
other
could
guys
do it
I'm
all.
excited about. Yeah, I think he could hoop too. Playing football, who's slowly sneaking into some Heisman watch lists that you're seeing on Twitter, pop up on your Twitter feed. And then today was the first day of Pitt basketball practice, where I'm watching videos of Jalen Lowe and Ish Leggett, and I'm looking at Jalen Lowe saying that's going to be a first team all ACC point guard. So what we want to do is just talk about who are the best athletes at the University of Pittsburgh right now, maybe do a little bit of power ranking for them. Kitty Pickett is well and has worked her way into this segment. If you're watching on YouTube, David's kitten
She's
is
involved.
just pacing back and forth, trying to give her 2 cents on it. But I don't know. What do we say? We give the people a top 5 right now, and then I think later this week we're going to work on maybe putting out a power rankings graphic, and maybe this is something we update once a month, every once in a while, as long as we remember to do so.
I mean, Pitt is now an athletics juggernaut, undefeated in football, haven't dropped a set in volleyball, high expectations for the basketball team, and men's soccer is, I believe, number 2 in the country. So it only makes sense, that we take a look at the multitude of incredible athletes at the University of Pittsburgh and decide, where they align. So I suppose this is just going to be a discussion, and we're going to work together to achieve a reasonable top 5, top 10. And, it can change as performances change, right? I mean, basketball's not even playing right now, and we are big fans of recency bias. So I'm sure there will be some movement, week to week, month to month.
Yeah, I said if Guillermo Diaz-Graham comes out and drops like 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks in the opener, we might have to sneak him into the top 5.
Yeah.
We're fluid, and this is not easy. We have a preliminary list here, and we did our research on all the sports. There's probably no harder time to do this than now, which is good, I guess, in general, but hard for us. So, number 1, is there a consensus?
Who are you thinking? Everyone on 3?
3, 2, 1. Babcock.
Olivia Babcock.
Okay, we didn't. What was the point of that?
I was lagging.
Okay.
I mean, I guarantee we get some shit for this from people. Oh, you're gonna put a woman above all the football players and basketball players. But like I said when we opened this up, it's kind of hard to argue right now. She is the top dog on a team who's ranked number 1 in the country and has not dropped a set all year.
Yeah, she's the best player on the best team in the country. This is not a popularity contest just because, this is a non-revenue sport. Like, spare me. She's the best athlete on campus.
And some accolades to back it up. I know some of the other guys on here we're really excited about and think are already really good, are not as decorated. Like you said, number 1 team in the country, freshman of the year, still number 1. They made it to the Final Four last year. Those are things that happened, and that is undeniably absurdly good.
Also, if we want to give some more reason why we're giving her the number 1 spot, I love how in volleyball, like their non-conference schedules, they do not play. Like there are like multiple top 5 matchups this past week in women's volleyball. We don't have 2 FCS tune-ups before we actually play real competition. Like they want all the smoke early and often. And I mean, sure, if the football team reels off a couple more wins, I think best way to put this is football and basketball will probably hold a little more weight if you're making a run in your sport. We in our prep, we did some research on the men's soccer and women's soccer teams. Complete transparency. Haven't watched any games of either of those teams this year. I've seen the highlights on the Jumbotron at the football game, but haven't made it to any men's soccer games, despite them being ranked number 2 in the country. So I have watched some volleyball matches, and I've seen Olivia Babcock dominate. So we're going to give her the number 1 spot right now. This isn't like the AP poll. We can admit when we're wrong if we have to make some changes later on down the line. But I think she's more than earned her spot.
Yeah. Volleyball season ticket holder, for the record.
We support the Olympic sports.
When they're good.
So when they're good. So I think number 2 is where things get pretty dicey. And I think there's 2 people I have in mind that could be pretty interchangeable. And I'd love to hear your guys' arguments. And that is Eli Holstein and Jalen Lowe. Holstein is only 4 games deep, but has clearly proved himself to be the most valuable member of the football team. And I mean, Jalen Lowe needs no introduction. Future top 10 pick, future all ACC, just an absolute wizard with a basketball in his hands. So, how do we weight that though? We've seen Jalen Lowe be incredible. He was awesome for a whole season, probably underutilized, and now we have huge expectations for him. Or you have Eli Holstein, who has completely taken the sport by storm, the most popular sport, the most important position. How do you compare this apple and this orange?
I might backpedal here. After ranking Olivia Babcock first, that says because she was more decorated. The other guys haven't done a whole lot yet. Eli Holstein's played 4 games, but I do not care. I have seen it with my eyes, and I feel like I'm penciling him at number 2.
Yeah, Eli is him and Cade Bell in tandem are 1A and 1B responsible for reinvigorating the excitement in this program. And it's not even just from a local standpoint, but you've got national talking heads talking about Pitt's found themselves a quarterback. They've got this redshirt freshman, this transfer from Alabama, and he looks like he's the real deal. Nick Saban even gave him some praise the other day, this week on game day, saying that that's a fine quarterback Pitt has up there, and they have their QB of the future. So,
which is crazy because we had heard that everyone at Alabama thinks he sucks, Bud Elliott.
Yeah. Check your sources on that one, buddy. So,
Jalen Lowe, he had a great freshman year. He has shown a little bit more, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we going Eli Holstein here? Do we have 2/3 majority? Are we unanimous?
I was just going to giving my devil's advocate for if you want to lean Jalen Lowe. Sure, he's been there for a fairly successful team. I think everyone sees that he's probably going to be the key piece for a Pitt basketball team that has about as high as expectations as we've had since entering the ACC. And yeah, I mean, he looked amazing last year. He's also getting a lot of national hype. That being said, his is coming in the preseason. We've seen it from Eli Holstein. I give the nod to Eli. Jalen has, although we think he will be the number 1 piece this year, has never been the most important player on a Pitt team. Eli and Holstein stands in that role right now for an undefeated football team. Eli Holstein, an easy number 2, and I'm sure we'll get some pushback that he wasn't number 1.
Okay, so would we all concur that Jalen Lowe would be a close number 3 with the opportunity to take over the number 1 spot when our brains are more focused on basketball?
I'm good with it.
Yeah. This would be a good chip on his shoulder. Have a really good season, Jalen Lowe, and you might move up in our power rankings on our podcast.
It's all the motivation you need. All
Although
right,
we could
4.
give Jalen Lowe a bonus point. He has been on the show. Neither of the other 2 have.
This is true.
But we'll keep him at 3 for now. We know what makes him tick.
If you get extra points for coming on the show, then Dayon Hayes is number 1.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think he's been disqualified from these rankings. Okay, 4, I think it gets interesting. I think we can go a lot of different ways. Can we each give a nominee for where we go next?
Yeah, this is really hard.
Yeah. Uh,
I have 2 that I've narrowed it down to. And I don't know if you 2 will agree with it, but yeah, we just spit them out. We can go from there.
Go.
Go
All
for
right.
it.
So for the number 4 spot, I am torn between Ish Leggett and Rachel Fairbanks.
Both on my list. Let me
Mhm.
throw another name at you. Once again, recency bias kind of affecting our brains a little bit. How about Desmond Reed? Guy was leading the country in all-purpose yards until he had to sit out against an FCS team, in which he almost certainly would have had like 300 yards.
True. Definitely a good suggestion. I would also throw in Louise Samkov, the leading scorer on the men's soccer team, 7 goals for the number 2 team in the country, just to include him in the conversation. But I also think you could throw Donovan McMillan in there as well. Huge body of work, over 100 tackles last year, the best player on that defense, best returning starter year to year.
Whoa. I think that's a bit of a jump to a conclusion right now. Best player on the defense? I think if I had to put my vote in right now, I'm going Kyle Lewis. Best player on the Pitt defense right now. I don't think anyone's playing at a higher level than Kyle Lewis is right now.
I agree, but if we're talking body of work,
maybe regardless.
If we're talking body of work, that needs to be something. Our entire top 5 cannot be people who have played in 4 games as Pitt Panthers. You know, like we have to at some point.
What if your other 12 you went 3 and 9? Does that count as body of work?
But like the only bright spot on a 3 and 9 team.
What if you
and he stuck it out? You got to give him credit there.
In one of those 9 losses.
Okay,
listen,
we're getting
I'm giving credit to the lone bright spot that stuck out, who has also been on the show and stuck out. A 3 and 9 season, came back and is rallying the troops for a much more watchable go at things.
All right, so we've made almost 0 headway on a number 4 spot.
Made this even harder for ourselves. Oh boy.
What if we leave it at the top 3 and then release our rankings later this week? How's that for a cliffhanger, listeners?
A little bit of a tease. I like it.
We'll fight about this offline.
Okay. Well,
maybe let the pulse of Twitter sway us one way or another, but I can see it's going a lot of different ways.
One thing I am certain of with this, and maybe we submit our own ballots, almost like the AP poll. And
wow,
and the points are allocated that way. I think that's how we got to end up doing this. But one thing I know for sure is we're finally gonna feel the pain of an AP pool voters mentions when we release this, and people just dropping our mentions like, "Oh, no mention of Sarah Shapansky, the leading point scorer for the women's soccer team," which I did just mention her, actually. 5 goals and 12 assists on the year. North Allegheny alum.
No, that disqualifies her from my list.
Exactly.
No Tigers.
So, yeah, we'll follow up on this later this week. Hopefully have this as a recurring theme, and would love a bit of input from the rest of Panther Nation on this.
Before we adjourn today and let you all go, let's hit them with some final thoughts, boys. It's been a while. I'm sure we've allowed quite a few thoughts to accumulate. So, typically we go with one. If you have multiple thoughts, try not to, because we're trying to keep this one a little bit shorter. But who am I to impede on your creativity? So who would like to begin?
I'm going to go first because this has been my final thoughts list for probably 4 weeks now, and we've not done the segment any of those weeks, but it's getting truer and truer each week. Dylan Raiola, he's a creep. It makes me uncomfortable watching him do all of the pregame routines. Like whenever he had the haircut and the sunglasses at first, I'm like, all right, that's kind of funny. He looks like Mahomes, sure. But he's taking it too far, and it is weird. And it is annoying me because anytime he completes a 4-yard drag route to a guy who gets tackled immediately, announcers go, oh, it looked like Mahomes there, throwing from the arm angle. Shut up. He's played a couple games. He's fine, but he's a weirdo.
I gotta admit, I haven't decided if I think it's weird or funny yet, and it's all contingent on like how self-aware he is about it. Because this could just be like a pretty obsessive, like teenage kid. But then when someone asked him about the Mahomes thing, like, hey, so you have Pat Mahomes' haircut and facial hair, most of his mannerisms, his throwing techniques, you walk like him, you warm up like him. So is he your favorite player? And he was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. What? No clue. Actually, my godfather's Matt Stafford. Yeah, he's my favorite. So if he is doing this as a bit, if he is just messing with everybody, I think that is very funny. If not, he might just be a little bit deranged. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
I think it's comparable to all the memes about Jason Tatum after he won the NBA Finals. He was just doing all the Kobe celebrations, and he said, he was saying things that were so clearly rehearsed. It's like, dude, you've been practicing this in front of a mirror for 4 months, so it's not cool. It's really cringy. That's how I feel when I'm watching him do like the jump up, tuck your knees, run down the field, pump up the crowd thing, exactly like Mahomes does. So I had to get that off my chest, and it feels a lot better now.
I'd like to give some defense to Raiola here. I get what you're saying, but also I agree with David. If he's doing it as a bit, that's kind of funny. But also, like him completely mimicking Pat Mahomes, who has been the best quarterback in the NFL since Raiola was probably 12 years old. He's only 19 years old now. So he is just trying to, like many of us, is trying to be like his favorite player. It's just much more in our face about it. Also, he's a true freshman, and I think he's pretty good, despite their loss to Illinois last week.
Yeah, the fact that he has the arm talent to mimic Mahomes is pretty cool. Like that, you get a pat on the back for like that can't be discounted here.
It's new enough for me to where I don't hate him yet. There's a chance that this could get old very quickly.
It is going to get to that point very quickly because I was ready to mute Devin Gardner on their Friday night game. He just kept doing the Mahomes comparisons. And then by like the second half, he was acknowledging like, oh, you guys are probably getting tired of the Mahomes comparisons, but he just did this Mahomes-like thing. Like, come on, man. There's got to be like something else to talk about right now. Like you're making it worse by doubling down.
I have a final thought. And
does it involve shitting on a college kid?
No, unfortunately. But okay. I'll have more of those. No, this is actually...
We're allowed to shit on them now. They make more money than us.
Correct. No, this one's actually shitting on fans of college kids. Fans who suck. And I'm adding we might even need to make a list of just all the fans who suck. But especially, you're automatically added to the fans who suck list if you're one of those people who, anytime a player does something remotely positive for a school that isn't Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State, and you just say, well, he'll be leaving in the portal for NIL next year, for NIL money. Like, this has mainly stemmed from Eli Holstein, but I've even seen it a little bit from Pitt like old crybaby Pitt fans talking about, Kyle Lewis or Rasheem Biles when they make a good play. But the set of people who now just resort to he's going to leave in the portal because he's good and Pitt can't pay him, or it can be any other school that doesn't have the resources that the Georgias and Alabamas do. It's just, you're just insufferable at this point. And I've had enough of it.
Yeah, there's two ways people do it. They do it as an insult, like Penn State and West Virginia fans. I've seen it from them. You can tell that Pitt is back, like fully back, because all of our mentions are about Pitt's attendance or how Holstein's going to be in the portal in 6 months or however many months until it opens up. So we're getting it both as an insult, like, well, good luck hanging on to them, but also like Holstein will hit a 50-yard pass and you'll hear someone behind you at Heinz Field go, oh God, I hope they can hang on to him next year.
Yeah.
Like, shut the hell up and cheer.
Yeah.
Enjoy the thing while it's going on. Don't make me think about how miserable like all of December and January is if you aren't a top 8 program. Enjoy that we are 4-0 and we found this unbelievable quarterback buried on Alabama's roster.
I hope Eli Holstein is good enough to warrant the attention of those schools. I hope all of our players are that good to where we have to worry about them going to Georgia. That would mean Pitt is pretty good. And if Pitt is pretty good, they're less likely to leave. So shut up. You're wasting your time. It's week 4.
And if you're that worried about it, open up your pocketbooks. You went to one of the best public schools in the Northeast and live in a city with one of the best costs of living in the country. Throw a couple bones to the boys.
Alliance.
Help us retain them next year. Alliance 412. Come on.
Or just don't be a fan of college sports anymore because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're going to have a rough season of whatever sport you follow if that's your mindset and the first thing you're going to.
I'd also like to mention, I think Chris Bickle's so happy that he hit on a transfer quarterback and like this is his like prized possession now that I think if it came down to it, he would just hand Eli a blank check and be like, whatever it takes, dude. Keep playing like that and you can have whatever you want. So
I thought you were going to say now that he did it once, he'll just keep trying to do it for other positions. He's like, oh, this is awesome. I got to find an amazing Alabama wide receiver next year, and then a running back, and then a cornerback. And
I've never been a rich guy, much less a rich NIL booster, but I have to imagine like absolutely nailing a transfer that like you had a big part in bringing in. I'm sure there's not a better feeling.
David, you got a final thought to take us out?
I do have a final thought. So SMU has kind of figured it out. They beat the shit out of TCU this week in the battle for the Iron Skillet, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, so they won 66-24. So obviously some significance because we'll be playing SMU and it'll look better if we beat an SMU that has figured it out. But obviously,
also, it was 66-42. So still an ass whooping, just not as bad.
What'd I say?
66-24.
Yeah, I should go to a doctor. Anyway. So, obviously SMU on the horizon, but the reason this is really significant is because on social media, TCU took some swipes at the CW because this game was broadcast on the CW in line with the ACC's recent deal to broadcast a handful of football and basketball games on the CW network that we entered into, I believe, last year. And, they were, I don't know why, but just went out of their way and really showed like, oh, unfortunately, because we're playing an ACC school, you have to watch this game on the CW. They got killed. And then the trolling commenced. CW tweeted the final score of the game with the One Tree Hill theme song playing on a loop. And, everybody got their shots in. And it sort of made me realize, the CW it's unique to us. And TCU came after our network. I think it is now the imperative of not just Pitt fans, but ACC fans in general to defend the shield on the CW. I've heard enough barbs from Big 12 fans and Big 10 fans like, oh, your league has to play games on the CW. Yeah, because their money is also green. And you know what? It's something unique about us. And I think that we all must take up arms in defense of the CW.
Hell yeah.
You know what the CW stands for? The channel for winners.
Wow.
I just made that up, but I think that we should roll with that.
Yeah, we should just roll with that. So, you know what?
75% believed you.
Champions and winners.
So far.
So you know what you're going to do while Pitt isn't playing this week? You're going to watch whatever game the channel for winners broadcast this weekend, and then you're gonna go and you're gonna stream 90210 or Smallville or Gossip Girl or whatever fucking new show about vampires they're putting out. I don't know. I'm guessing blind on that one, but I'm sure there is one. We're gonna support our CW against the forces of evil that want to insult and degrade it.
Hey, Saturday at noon, we've got Northern Illinois at NC State, the CW. Can NC State take down the almighty Wolfpack? Wolves?
I think it's Wolfpack. It's Wolfpack. Can they get that transitive win over Notre Dame?
Yeah. CW.
Then you can watch Sullivan's Crossing afterwards.
I had to look up what series are from the CW, and it is admittedly quite pathetic.
Nope.
But it's on the CW, so it's great. It's the best kind of garbage. Dawson's Creek, love it.
Oh, perfect.
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, sure. Degrassi. Did not think that Degrassi was CW, but wow, that's a hit right there.
Look at that. Well, Panther fans, enjoy your stress-free weekend. Kick back, throw on the CW, and then all of the other games throughout the day, or just catch a couple of episodes of Degrassi. Who knows? But yeah, enjoy it while you can, because the Pitt Football Panthers are undefeated. They're 4-0. The Pitt Volleyball Panthers haven't dropped a set. Pitt is on top of the college sports world right now, and it sure feels good. We can start getting nervous again next week as we count down the days of the UNC game. But for now, enjoy it. As always, hail loyal sons of Pittsburgh.